Alright, well, my name's Corin. I'm half Swiss and I'm from London. Not the biggest fan of sport as such. I'm more into the rivalry and the things with fans, and when your mate's team loses and you can take the mickey. So it's more about sort of tribalism. Being half English, I support England in rugby and cricket, but in football, my allegiance is with Switzerland. And it stems from the fact that when I was a small boy, I think the fact that we had a red shirt, whereas England had a boring white shirt. I know that sounds really... Well, I was a child at the time, so it was childish, I suppose, but I think that's why. FC Basel were the most famous team, and they've dominated Swiss football so long now because of the money they get from the Champions League. Cities like Zurich and Basel and Bern, there's a big interest in football, but when you get to the more rural areas, there isn't so much interest, and I would say there's not so much interest in the French part of Switzerland anymore. There is an element of hooliganism even in a country like Switzerland. A couple of years ago, the Basel fans went on a rampage after they lost the championship to Zurich, and I remember a few years ago now when I read this in the paper that a helicopter had to come onto the pitch to get the referee out of the ground because the St Gallen fans kicked off. They went a bit crazy when they were playing Neuchâtel. I've only watched them live once, and that was a friendly against England at Wembley. I was in the England section, so I wasn't wearing a Swiss shirt. I was keeping rather quiet. England took the lead, Switzerland equalised, and I didn't jump up and cheer because I didn't want any trouble to start. And then England got a winner at the end of the game. It was during the World Cup in the USA, and Switzerland were playing Romania, and Romania had a really good team at that time, and we beat them quite convincingly. The more recent one is the fact that we scraped through against Northern Ireland in a qualified in a playoff to qualify for this World Cup. We got a penalty which probably shouldn't have been a penalty, and that's how we qualified for the World Cup. And all the Northern Irish people are very unhappy about it and sad, but I think during the qualifiers we were a much better team anyway. I was just constantly looking at my phone, getting updates. I couldn't have watched it on TV. I wouldn't have been. I just would have been too nervous. So yeah, when I saw that we had the penalty, I was really pleased. My club is FC Lucerne, purely because they are from the area where my mother is from. Lucerne have quite a high level of support for quite a small town, and they do have their solid sort of hard base fans, which they call them like ultras. It's unlikely that Switzerland will ever win a major trophy, whereas Lucerne have got more chance of like winning a domestic cup. They've only ever won the league once, so I think in terms of being realistic, Lucerne have got more chance of winning something. My all-time favourite player would be Alex Fry, who was a striker, because what Switzerland currently lack at the moment is a goal scorer. We're good defensively, but we don't really score many goals. He played about 80 games for Switzerland and he scored about 40 goals. He retired a few years ago and he's coaching now. I can't answer that. And the reason I can't answer that is one of my best friends is Portuguese and he's just obsessed with Ronaldo. We had an argument only the other day at work where he was saying he's the best player of all time. Someone else was saying, no, Thierry Henry's the best player of all time. And I said, no, sorry, Alex Fry, 40 goals in 80 games for Switzerland, sorry, he's the best. quite irrational, I suppose, really, because I'm quite a reserved, quiet person, but during the game I can get, not aggressive, but just during the 90 minutes I hate the other team with a passion. I usually get quite nervous. I remember playing in the World Cup when Spain won the World Cup. We were in Spain's group and I was watching it in a pub just full of Spanish people, and I was the one Swiss person in there with my Swiss flag and my Swiss shirt on, and the Spanish people were lovely. They were all really nice. We got on all really well, and Switzerland beat them 1-0. And when Switzerland scored, I just sunk to my knees, cheering. And I turned around, and all the Spanish fans were all like this, and I was apologising to them afterwards. Germany are always strong, and I think Germany will do well in the sort of Russian environment. And obviously you've got to look at Spain, Brazil, France I think are very strong now again. So I'd quite like to see a Germany-France final, I think. Oh, the Swiss always go hop Schweiz. That's their big thing. You'll hear hop, hop, hop. It means go, come on. You hear it at in skiing events and things like that as well. Hop, 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 hop. Yeah. I might do it if I've had a few beers, but.
In the Champions League, almost always big teams win it, like Real Madrid, Barcelona, Juventus, Milan. In Switzerland, how they see the Champions League? They are excited about going to the Champions League, or it's like, well, we will face good teams and that's all?
I'm not a huge fan of the Champions League. It's heavily weighted. It's all to do with money now. It's heavily weighted for the likes of Real Madrid, Barcelona, Bayern Munich. When I was a child, it was called the European Cup, and it was a straight knockout tournament, and lesser teams had a much better chance of winning it. Teams like Aston Villa, Nottingham Forest. A team from Sweden, Malmö, got to a final. That's never going to happen again in my lifetime. It's not as competitive as it was. So I find the Champions League boring. A lot of people my age and slightly older all say it was better in the old days when you had the European Cup, the Cup Winners' Cup, and the UEFA Cup. 0. They're going to do really badly. I watched the draw live on television, and as soon as we got Brazil, I thought, oh no, we're going to get thrashed. Then we got Costa Rica, who I think will beat Costa Rica, and we ended up with Serbia. I thought, oh no, Serbia probably too strong for us. I'd like to think we'll finish second in the group, but I've got a sneaky feeling Serbia might nick second spot, and I think we'll go home. But I think now it's more about just enjoying it. It's just, a World Cup is always better when your team is in it, even if you go out relatively early. There's more fun, there's more interest.